and king f8. After thinking for a very long time, Portisch played king f8, and it might not have been the best decision. The idea of tile after bishop e7 was a remarkable bishop g6 check, and it seems that after h takes g6, bishop g5, suddenly white's attack becomes awfully dangerous. Black's king is forced to stay on e8 because it is completely dominated by the white queen on e6 and cannot castle, and white threatens mate. So after queen c7, rook e1. White has already a mating attack because bishop e7 is threatened, and after queen d7, queen takes g6 is very strong, followed by rook takes e7. For instance, king f8, rook e7, now also g7 is hanging, and after queen g7, queen e7 takes queen g7. White surely should be winning due to his large material advantage. And this sort of, to see this in advance, and Tal must have seen it when he was playing c4, because otherwise he would just lose the central pawn for nothing, is a sign of a genius, undoubtedly. And Tal, in fact, must have seen more than this. What he must have seen is also that after king d8, he's not risking anything because he has the perpetual check. Queen d6, king e8, queen e6. Now, we do not know why Lajos Portisch did not play king d8. It is either that he wanted to avoid the perpetual check, or maybe he had some fears about, some intuitive fears about this king placed on d8, but he played king f8. And after king f8, it turned out that the white's attacks continues to develop with a pretty serious force. White goes bishop f4. The threat is bishop d6, and you see the other rook is coming to e1, and now it seems that black is forced to make some only moves, something like bishop e7 here to prevent bishop d6. Rook e1 makes also the bishop very vulnerable, and it seems that white has a very serious compensation here. For instance, after queen d8, although white is not winning here by force, still he can do many things, even something like bishop b1, because black is a bit paralyzed, cannot do so much. Then white follows with a3. Black would be forced to go with the knight to a6, and then white can attack with rook e5 also. So a very unpleasant situation for black. Black defended with rook d8 in order to thwart bishop d6 with rook d6. And then the white's attack would lose quite a bit of its potential. So, but white still has many resources here. He played c5. You see, with every move, Tal creates some threats. He's also forced to do this because he's rook down, and otherwise his attack would quickly peter off. But now he creates additional possibilities of bishop c4. For instance, after queen a5, now that the queen is not threatening to take on d4, the move like rook e1 probably decides the game, because after knight d3, white wins after bishop d6 and queen e8 mate. So you see, Portisch had to face all sorts of dangers, and at the end he was probably happy to have the move knight takes d3. You see, black's queen is hanging on b6, but on the other hand, black already has a pretty serious material advantage, which enables him to shed some material in order to parry the attack. And for a moment it seems that okay, white cannot continue the attack properly, because after bishop d6 check, if white tries to win more material, rook takes d6 is forced. Now it seems that white cannot give a sufficient number of checks in order to be materially ahead, because after queen d6, bishop e7, queen f4 is not possible because of knight f4, and queen b8 runs into queen d8. So white cannot profit from the fact that black's queen is hanging, and has to take on b6 right away. Now black takes a bishop, attacking the queen at the same time. White goes queen g4, knight d5, knight goes to a very strong outpost on d5, and white takes b takes a7. So you see, the position has changed completely with his very imaginative play, and the Stanek rook sacrifice. Tal managed to create a position which is, although not immediately beneficial for him, still is so complicated that finding the right way here is almost impossible for a human being. The pawn on a7 creates all sorts of dangers for black, and it is difficult to fight against because black's rooks are not connected. And here Portisch he found what looked like a solution to him. He played king e7, a very brave move. The king comes out into the open despite the fact that white can attack on the e-file. And now I believe that Portisch for a second felt very safe, because he saw that checks are not bringing white anywhere. In fact, black is now firmly controlling the pawn a7. The knight is unassailable on d5. The bishop is unassailable on f6. And it seems that black has everything under control. But exactly here, Tal found the way to add some new possibilities to white's attack, and this proved decisive in the game. The normal continuation rook e1 wouldn't bring white anywhere, because after king d6, whatever white can do, he just will drive the black king closer to white's pawn. That is, after king c7, b6, the king would be in complete safety and would win this pawn on a7. So what Tal did is to play b4, after which it became clear that also on the queen side there will be no safety for the black king, because white is going to blow the queen side open with b5, and this is also very multi-purpose, because after b5, b6, white also gives some additional support to the pawn a7, which is of course decisive. And this position sadly proved very, very bad. Some knight b4, a rook b1 is of course disastrous, and the best for black was probably to avoid the threat b5 by the move knight c7, but it seems that also here, after the knight leaves its outpost, black is in a pretty bad shape. What Portisch did is to play rook a8. This looked very logical to block this pawn and to attack, because also it was probably not obvious what white can do against it, but Tal continued with rook e1 check. And after king d6, once again, the checks do not bring anything, because the king would just run to b6, but white continues with b5. And now it becomes clear that black is doomed, because after c takes b5, queen e6, white simply wins the knight, and otherwise white creates threats which are not easy to parry. Also, b takes c6 followed by queen e6, rook c1, for instance, is one of the threats, and it is not clear what black can do at all to regain any coordination of the pieces. So in the game, Portisch captured rook a7, and after rook e6 check, king c7, it almost looked all right for a second, but after rook f6, it became clear that the following move is queen g7, and white simply picks up the rook with a decisive material advantage. So Portisch resigned in this